For nearly 2,000 years, the ancient world kept a secret. Every year, thousands of people, farmers, merchants, soldiers, slaves, philosophers, even emperors, traveled to a single sanctuary in Greece to undergo an experience so profound that those who lived through it said it changed how they saw life and death forever. And yet not one of them ever told what happened inside. Not a single detailed account survives. From 2,000 years and hundreds of thousands of participants because revealing the secret was punishable by death. The greatest minds of antiquity went through it, wrote that it was the most important thing they had ever done, and then fell deliberately, permanently silent. This is the story of the Eleusinian mysteries, perhaps the best kept secret in all of human history, and of what may have really happened in that dark hall, hidden so completely that we are still trying to reconstruct it 2 millennia later. The mysteries grew out of one of the most beautiful and haunting myths the Greeks ever told, a story about grief and about the turning of the year. At its center were two goddesses, Demeter, goddess of grain and the harvest, the very power that made crops grow and fed humankind, and her beloved daughter Persephone. The myth tells how Persephone was seized by Hades, lord of the dead, and carried down into the underworld to be his queen. Demeter, wild with grief, wandered the earth searching for her lost daughter, and in her sorrow she let the whole world go barren. The crops failed, the fields died, and humanity faced starvation and extinction. In her desperate wandering, the grieving goddess came, disguised as an old woman, to the town of Eleusis, not far from Athens, where she was shown kindness. And it was there in the myth that a bargain was eventually struck to end the famine. Persephone would spend part of each year below with Hades and part of the year above with her mother. When mother and daughter are reunited, the earth blooms into spring and summer. When Persephone descends again to the underworld, Demeter mourns, and the world falls into the barrenness of autumn and winter. The myth was the Greeks' explanation for the seasons themselves, for death and return written into the very cycle of the year. But it was far more than a story about crops. It was a story about devastating loss and miraculous reunion, about a journey down into the land of the dead and a return from it. And that theme, descent and return, death and something beyond it, was the beating heart of what happened at Eleusis. For the mysteries promised their initiates something almost no other Greek religion offered. Not merely favor from the gods in this life, but genuine hope for a better fate in the next. Those who were initiated came away believing they had gained some blessed advantage over death itself, a happier lot in the world beyond the grave. In a culture where the standard vision of the afterlife was a gray, joyless, shadowy half-existence, that promise was absolutely electrifying, and it explains why people came from across the entire Greek world, and later the Roman world, to be initiated. We cannot describe the secret at the center, but we can describe the journey to it, the public parts, the approach, the staging, because those were never hidden, and they are extraordinary in their own right. The mysteries were, strikingly, open to a remarkably wide range of people. Unlike many exclusive cults of the ancient world, initiation was available to almost anyone who could speak Greek and had not committed certain grave offenses such as murder. Men and women, free citizens, and enslaved people, rich and poor alike, could be initiated and could stand together in the sacred hall. This near universality was a central part of the mysteries' power and their enduring appeal across the whole ancient world. In the darkness of the rite, the ordinary hierarchies of Greek society were, at least for a night, set aside. The process unfolded in careful stages across the year. There were preliminary rites held in the spring, sometimes called the lesser mysteries, which prepared and purified candidates for what was to come. Then, in the autumn, came the greater mysteries, the great annual climax. The initiates would gather in Athens, undergo ritual purification, including bathing in the sea, and fasting, and then join an enormous procession that walked the sacred way, the road that ran for many miles from Athens all the way to the sanctuary at Eleusis. This was a slow, ritual pilgrimage of thousands of people moving together toward the secret, carrying torches, singing, and at certain points engaging in ritual jesting and the shouting of sacred cries. The journey itself was part of the transformation, a long, exhausting, sacred approach designed to strip away the ordinary and prepare the mind for something extraordinary. At Eleusis stood the destination, a great initiation hall called the Telesterion. It was unlike an ordinary Greek temple. A normal temple was designed to be admired from the outside, housing a god statue that the public did not enter to worship among. The Telesterion was the opposite, a large columned hall built specifically to hold a great crowd of people inside, in darkness. It was here within these walls, after all the preparation and the fasting and the miles of the sacred way, that the central rite took place by night by torchlight. And it is precisely here that the historical record deliberately goes dark, because everything that happened inside the Telesterion was protected by the vow of secrecy, and that vow held unbroken for nearly 2,000 years. Here is the astonishing core of the story, the sheer completeness of the silence, and how fiercely it was enforced. To reveal the secrets of the mysteries was regarded as one of the gravest crimes a person could commit. It was seen as a profound act of impiety, an offense against the two goddesses themselves, and it could carry the ultimate penalty. Ancient sources make clear that revealing or profaning the mysteries could bring a sentence of death. The most famous scandal in the history of Athens turned on exactly this. In the years of the Great War between Athens and Sparta, on the very eve of a massive Athenian military expedition, the brilliant, charismatic, and dangerously reckless aristocrat Alcibiades was accused of having mocked and profaned the sacred mysteries, performing them in private homes, as entertainment before uninitiated people. The accusation, coupled with the mysterious mutilation of sacred statues around the city on the same night, threw Athens into a frenzy of religious panic and political paranoia. It helped drive Alcibiades into exile, turned him into an enemy of his own city, and tangled itself into a chain of events that contributed to one of the greatest catastrophes in Athenian history. To merely imitate the mysteries in the wrong setting could destroy one of the most powerful men in Greece. To actually betray their true content was unthinkable. And so, across the entire span of the ancient world, the secret held. Consider for a moment just how extraordinary that is. Hundreds of thousands of people were initiated at Eleusis over the centuries. Among them were some of the most articulate, curious, and relentlessly prolific writers who have ever lived. Philosophers, playwrights, poets, statesmen, historians. They mention the mysteries again and again in their surviving works. They praise them in the most extravagant terms, and yet not a single one of them ever wrote down what actually happened in that hall. They tell us how it felt, that it was the high point of their entire lives, that it filled them with hope in the face of death, that they emerged from it changed people, no longer afraid of the end. But the thing itself, what was shown, what was spoken, what was done by torchlight in the Telesterion, every last one of them carried to the grave. It is perhaps the single most successful act of collective voluntary secrecy in the whole of recorded human history. From the scattered fragments, hints, and later Christian writers who tried to expose the pagan rites, scholars have pieced together only a rough outline of what the experience involved. Things that were said, things that were shown, and things that were done. There seems to have been a dramatic reenactment of the myth of Demeter and Persephone, the loss, the searching, the reunion, experienced by the initiates in darkness and then in sudden overwhelming light. There was, it appears, a sacred object or objects revealed at the climactic moment, a showing that formed the very heart of the mystery. And there was a specially prepared ritual drink that the initiates consumed after their long fast called the kykeon. Some modern researchers have advanced the striking and much discussed theory that this drink may have contained a naturally occurring psychoactive substance, possibly derived from ergot, a fungus that grows on grain sacred to Demeter, which could help explain the powerful, visionary, life-altering experiences the initiates described. It is a fascinating idea, and it fits the agricultural symbolism perfectly, but we must be honest that it remains speculative and hotly debated, not established fact. What is beyond debate is the question it tries to answer. What could possibly produce an effect so profound that the greatest minds of antiquity guarded it unanimously and without a single exception for 2,000 years? The mysteries did not end because someone finally talked. They ended because the world that sustained them was destroyed, and their secret was erased not by betrayal but by extinction. Century upon century, the rites continued at Eleusis without interruption, surviving the rise and fall of Greek city-states, the conquest of Alexander, and the coming of Rome. Far from suppressing them, several Roman emperors sought initiation themselves, traveling to Eleusis to undergo the ancient rite. The mysteries were among the most respected and enduring religious institutions in the entire ancient world. But as that world changed and as Christianity rose to dominance and then to power, the old pagan cults came under mounting pressure, then official hostility, and finally outright prohibition. In the late 4th century, as the empire turned decisively against paganism, the sanctuary at Eleusis was disrupted and damaged amid the invasions and upheavals of the age, and the ancient rites, starved of the world that gave them their meaning and forbidden by the new religious order, finally ceased. After nearly 2,000 years of unbroken annual observance, and because the initiates had done their work of silence so perfectly, when the mysteries died, the secret died cleanly and completely with them. There was no final confession, no last aging hierophant who wrote it all down before the end so that posterity might know. The unbroken chain of silence that had held for 2 millennia simply reached its final link and stopped. Whatever was seen and revealed in the Telesterion vanished from the earth as thoroughly as if it had never existed, leaving us only the outer shell of the whole thing, the beautiful myth, the ruins of the sacred way, the broken foundations of the great hall, and the unanimous, tantalizing testimony of hundreds of thousands of people that something had happened in that place, something worth keeping secret with their very lives. The most tantalizing evidence for what the mysteries did to people isn't the fragments of the ritual. It's the testimony of the initiates themselves who told us everything about the effect and nothing about the cause. Listen to how the great figures of antiquity spoke of Eleusis. The Roman statesman and philosopher Cicero, himself an initiate, wrote that among all the things his city of Athens had given to the world, nothing was better or more valuable than these mysteries, that through them people had been civilized and softened, had learned the true principles of life, and had gained the ability to live with joy and to die with a better hope. Think about the weight of that claim from one of the most sober, skeptical, and intellectually rigorous minds of the ancient world. Not that the mysteries were pleasant, but that they gave people the ability to die with hope. Greek poets and playwrights echoed him. Surviving fragments and lines from the great tragedians and lyric poets call those who have seen the mysteries blessed, and draw a sharp line between the initiated who understand something about what awaits beyond death, and the uninitiated for whom only darkness lies ahead. Again and again, across centuries, the same message. The initiate is blessed. The initiate no longer fears death. The initiate has seen something that changes everything. And yet, this is the miracle of it. Not one of these eloquent, expressive people ever slipped. Cicero, who wrote volumes on religion, philosophy, and the nature of the gods, and who was more than willing to criticize and analyze every belief he encountered, praised the mysteries lavishly and revealed nothing of their content. The poets who called the initiates blessed never said why or what they had seen. It's as though a great crowd of the most talkative people in history all agreed to point at the same door, tell you it changed their lives, and refuse, every one of them, to tell you what was on the other side. The rites themselves were maintained across the generations by particular sacred families of Eleusis and Athens, hereditary priesthoods who passed the guardianship of the secret down through their bloodlines for centuries, the high priest who displayed the sacred things, and the torchbearer who led the initiates through darkness into light. These families were the keepers of the mystery, and they kept it. The secret was not held by luck, it was held by an institution generation after generation built for exactly one purpose, to make sure that what happened in the hall stayed in the hall. And it did. The Eleusinian mysteries stand as proof of something we rarely believe is even possible, that human beings in enormous numbers, across an enormous span of time, can keep a promise. For 2,000 years, everyone who knew the secret chose to protect it. Right up until the moment the whole tradition was extinguished. They left us the outside of the experience and took the inside with them into the dark. We know beyond doubt that it changed how they faced death. We know they believed it was the most important thing they ever did. And we will almost certainly never know exactly what it was. Some secrets are lost simply because no one ever wrote them down. But this one was lost because hundreds of thousands of people decided together that it would be, and kept that decision faithfully until there was no one left alive to keep it. If that kind of buried history grips you the way it grips me, subscribe. Every few days, we go looking for the things the ancient world hid on purpose. Some of them we manage to recover and drag back into the light. And some, like this one, we can only stand at the very edge of and wonder what they saw.